Alright guys, Kremp here again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. More major developments going down last night. Questions on whether Atlanta FaZe need to make a roster change. Illy has been thrown into the conversation, but also what is going on still behind the scenes at OpTic Texas with Shotzzy saying the word pred on stream last night. That seemed to cause some problems, especially given that if you go into Scump's chat and try and talk about the situation, that is not going to end especially well. Loads still to dive into today. Very much into your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. We had one final game of last night to cover this morning. That was Boston versus Surge. Can you believe it? Boston was so bad last year. They've come into this season with a team that went to the World Cup a few months ago and looked okay, but nothing especially good on paper, you would imagine. But so far in this game, they've looked rather good. Cammy looks nice at this game. I do like the Snoopy Purge duo. I think that, look, they stuck by Snoopy controversially so over the last couple of seasons. Maybe they found a roster that actually makes that work. Boston have played some not so good teams, they've played some good teams. Of course, they beat OpTic on the first weekends, and OpTic since then have won all of their series. That must say something at the very least. This was another banger. I mean, they go all the way to a game 5, but in the end, it's enough for Snoopy and the boys to get the dub. Snoopy goes off. To be honest, he's actually played very well, I think, in the CDL so far this season. His KD numbers didn't necessarily reflect that, but we saw that in the result last night, and Abuzah was not a happy man. He tweeted a few things out, such as this one. I don't know how I'm supposed to get a single kill from here. I actually can't. Now, this is the problem with these guys, I'm pretty sure, being based out of Vancouver. We talked about this before the season even began, that if they are going to move up to Vancouver, good luck from a server perspective, playing certain teams. It's going to be a challenge, as it is for the teams out in LA. Seems like Abuzah doesn't think this online environment is especially fair, but, you know, to be honest, I don't think there's that much surprise at this point of the season. And yeah, it was a game 5 red card search and destroy they go down on. Both of the hard points, though, were like very impressive for Boston. And obviously, Surge are probably going to say, oh, well, it was server cheese and all this stuff as we usually find. But Boston are just looking pretty nice at the moment, to be fair. The AR duo's delivering, the SMG duo's delivering, and Boston could be a bit of a force to be reckoned with, right? I mean, we talked about it yesterday. They're, apart from Falcons, who even they are like semi-competitive until it actually matters. Kind of every other team at times has shown some degree of promise this season so far. And look, every year when these rosters are put together, we look at them and we say, okay, that might be okay, that might be okay. This year we did the same thing, but genuinely, it does seem like the teams have done a better job this time. There's still a couple of teams out there that I don't like, but there are plenty of teams that could be upset potential rosters for the higher echelon of teams on paper, and it's so difficult to call what the power rankings looks like right now, what it's going to look like when we go to Major 1 in Madrid. Obviously, with Minor 1, it's going to be the next matchup for many of these teams in the early part of January. We also saw this. Madrid was saying Falcons have to do a complete roster change. These guys are terrible. But look, I don't think that tells the full story, to be fair. And as Clay says, this guy is spouting nonsense as usual. Big competitive in every map except the controls, wants to recycle the top challenger players. Now, look, I don't think Clay is wrong, but equally, they've got to deliver some results reasonably quickly, or Falcons aren't going to be especially happy about it, I'd imagine. There's only so much time they can play like this until, you know, the trigger has to be pulled one way or the other. Yesterday, though, the big result really was FaZe going down to Ravens, getting 3-0s. There's so many fascinating things about this series. Of course, we saw this big result. Now, this isn't kind of true because I think they got 3-0'd at Champs, but that's at a LAN. In an online qualifier where they've been so dominant over the last few years, it's just never been a thing that they get 3-0'd. But it happened last night by not OpTic, not Thieves, you know, not another top team, but by the Carolina Royal Ravens, a team that Shotzzy said were not even looking that good in practice over the last few days. And yet they come in here and smoke FaZe off the server. TJ, to be fair, had lost to the Tiny Terrors, I think the last 18 times he'd played them. So, you know, nobody beats TJHaLy 19 times in a row. And he turned up big time yesterday. Of course, Slasher was loving it, having got the revenge effectively for them dropping him a little while ago. Now, look, it's not a LAN event, but it's still a pretty big deal. And as Slasher said after the fact, I knew we had a good chance to beat them, but to 3-0 them, though, don't think I've ever done that against those guys in my entire career. So TJ's beaten FaZe. that was a serious curse that he's managed to break. We know that Slasher cannot beat Shotzzy for the life of him, but, you know, maybe it's not impossible the way that Ravens are currently looking. That could happen in the near future as well. And just a few other stats that show how difficult this situation still is for FaZe, because the K-Sun Showdown not that long ago now, they got 100-point clubbed twice at that tournament. Since then, they've been 100-point clubbed twice in the CDL, which just never happens. So, yeah, there's something seriously wrong, and the problem for FaZe that they're going to go into this break now and they're going to wonder, wow, okay, what do we need to do and change? They do play again tonight, so they do have another opportunity to get a victory on the board, which they well should, but that's not necessarily going to arrest the suspicions that this FaZe team are not where they need to be. The boys on the OpTic watch party were even talking about it yesterday, saying, look, iLLeY's pretty nice at this game. You know, obviously they got slammed by Ravens map 1. If they do need to make some sort of a move, what's that going to look like? It would be remarkable to imagine anything happening for this team mid-season, but, you know, I've talked about it every year for the last few years. FaZe have teamed together for so long. Nothing ever lasts forever, whether it's in-game stuff, whether it's out-of-game stuff, whatever it is. It just does have the feeling right now that that core of FaZe might be coming to the end of, you know, their life cycle as team. It's not like they're bad players now, whatever. Sometimes after so long teaming together, things just stop working as they used to work, and it's difficult to get back on track. They still very easily, FaZe, maybe not easily, but they definitely could really start putting in the work, turning things around for the team and, you know, becoming the FaZe that we knew before. But I don't think they're ever going to be that dominant this season compared to previous years where they have been at times. They might be able to get there, but, you know, it's difficult questions for FaZe, I would say, over the next few weeks, I'd imagine. And OpTic, there's been some discussions there as well. Yes, Hook went big on the game 5. He clutched up. Okay, he nearly threw away the game with the 1 versus 2, but to be fair, he got absolutely incinerated in that gunfight by, I think it was Priestahh. Then Dashy clutches up the round anyway. But of course, there were some questions. If, you know, you could theoretically replace Hook with another option when the time comes, could that be a guy like Simp? I mean, I saw this going around yesterday, people talking about the fact that maybe it would have to be an off-season thing. But look, if FaZe have decided that enough's enough, this roster's going to have to change. If the team's decided it, then of course OpTic could be in a position to maybe capitalize, especially if Thieves look as good for the rest of the season as we expect them to look, and they look right now. There is a possibility of an OpTic FaZe kind of super team for next season, but I still think it's a little bit out there as a suggestion. However, the big drama that we wanted to dive into again is actually how this was even a possibility in the first place, because this is Pred's upper body here with Sim's head on it. Right now they've got Hook in that role instead, but of course Pred does not seem like he's coming back anytime soon. None of the OpTic guys seem to want to talk about him, with the exception of course of Shotzzy, who, you know, leak seat, whatever. He just says the things that come into his mind. He doesn't really care about the repercussions a lot of the time or realize that there might be any. As Kenny says, happy with the progress. Got to, you know, come back stronger individually for the new year. But that's OpTic's season done for now until, of course, the new year gets underway. So a couple of things to mention on the Pred situation. Firstly, the following. If you go in Scump's chat, now look, I understand why they've done this, but still, it just adds to all the other things. The fact that the OpTic accounts have unfollowed Pred. There was even some talk that Pred has unfollowed the OpTic guys back. I don't know if that's true. I couldn't go through all this following to actually find out. It wouldn't load all of them for me. There's just been some speculation that's true. I don't know if it is or not, but I wouldn't be surprised given what's happened over the last few days here. Then we've got the fact that on Scump's broadcast yesterday, you could see that Pred's promotional image for the OpTic merchandise was basically removed and replaced with a different character. So, you know, they're trying to erase him on some level. And of course, we speculated yesterday exactly what he might have done to get to this position. And of course, the Pred discussions have been frustrating. I mean, look, Scump can only go so long with everyone just spamming Pred in his chat. So I get why they've done this, but it still does add fuel to the fire that if you put Pred in the Scump chat, then it will get filtered out, right? So, you know, it has to go to the mods if they're going to accept the comment, which is probably not going to be happening. So just another element of the story here. And then we've got this one. So last night I wanted to share this clip from the OpTic watch party, and there are a fair few things that Kremp was saying, and Kremp was great fun on the stream last night as always. But he was talking a lot about various things, skirting the Pred issue a lot of the time. Shotzzy sat down on the couch and he was talking about OpTic Search and Destroy, and he says, oh, with Pred, XYZ, you know, he wasn't as good as it as Kyler is for whatever reason, right? Like, like, and obviously just talking about the difference between when Priv was on the roster and when Hook was on the roster. But still, the OpTic boys don't want to say anything about it. And the reaction, the immediate reaction, I thought, from Scump and Kremp, part of this reaction, I'll share the clip for you guys right about now, was like, oh my god, I can't believe Shotzzy said this. But also, would they have reacted in this way if it wasn't like a really, if they didn't feel like it was a big deal that he was even being mentioned? You know, people are saying like, it's like Voldemort, right? They won't even talk about this guy's name. And the fact, like, no one wants to say it. It's actually insane to me. Like, no one even wants to say the words Pred. And Shotzzy will do it, and then Kremp and Scump are there like, oh my god, I can't believe it. So Kremp obviously must know like what's happened there behind the scenes, why this is such a big deal, and it's just like, if this is the reaction to even mentioning the name, I mean, blimey, it must be bad, no? And there must be more coming out over the coming days, because I think Kremp was also making some other, you know, interesting implications during the watch party here. So I'll share the clip, and then we'll talk about today's game.
Nice though.
Yeah, no, 100%. Our S&D is like,
you guys actually.
To be fair, Pred did say like this is not like a known thing, but it's kind of funny because he'd always say like, oh, you know, I barely have S&D reps and stuff like that, right?
Come on.
And like he knows like he was like pretty mid S&D. Well, at least last year, because MW2 he was actually really good. MW2 Vanguard. Well, ever since he was, I guess like whenever he was on my team, for whatever reason, he was just so stiff in S&D. But he knows that. It's not like I'm shading this guy, but yeah, Kyler obviously it helps kind of like he has a lot of challenger reps, so he kind of knows like a lot of timings and a lot of good strats. So yeah, our S&D is like, I don't think we lost one yet.
Yeah, you guys are looking good, bro.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure with Kyler we haven't lost one.
Yo,
we were about to reset the internet, but
yeah, were you guys pissed? You guys were in like the best spot for for map 4.
Yeah,
like you guys had full P4.
Oh, restart the internet.
You guys had spawning out kitchen.
No, yeah, 100%. I'm not.
Wild to think here that as Kenny tweeted out yesterday, the AR duo of OpTic, of course, you've got Kenny's GTR and you've got, well, Dashy's new GT3, the Batmobile or whatever he's going to be calling it. And both of these go very hard. But, you know, obviously people are saying, wow, Pred's car could have been right here in the middle, right? The opportunity was there. He was on OpTic. Everything was looking so good. And then there's just been this like full collapse for whatever reason. We still don't really know, although there's been much speculation. Of course, over the last few days, given FaZe's collapse so far, there has been some talk about whether it's a one-team league. Because, as I said yesterday, it's certainly not a three-team league. I mean, it's very clear that there are other teams competitive with FaZe and with OpTic, and we know that Toronto are up there and Ravens are up there, but it's not like Thieves have been undefeated either. I mean, they have been undefeated, but they've been, you know, beatable at times in the series they've played. So I don't think it's clear at all the way this league is currently shaping out. Shotzzy and Hook I thought was interesting. They've played on Dallas, they've played on OpTic, but actually their record in terms of win percentage on OpTic is actually higher than it was on the Dallas Empire days. But yesterday was their 100th series as a duo. They're 68 in 32 as a pairing, which is pretty impressive. Black Ops 6, of course, they've started 2-0 so far. These are their records on the other games they've played. But let's talk about the matches for tonight. This I thought was pretty funny. Scrap and Shotzzy were on stream talking with Xnid, and this was a good broadcast, this, because Hook was playing ranked like his life was on the line, and then you had you know, his teammates in the background just kind of shooting whatever with Xnid, and they were asking him, like, does this go fly on a private jet? Now today, Xnid plays Atlanta FaZe. Now, this is going to be an interesting series. I mean, all of these are interesting right now, but these are your games to close out the weekend. So Toronto play Heretics. Heretics can be a scary team at times, but I think Toronto should be handling business. There's upset potential here for sure. There always is, I would say, with Miami. But, you know, Ultra Game 5 is feasible because Miami's Search and Destroy is not look good at all. Maybe cleaner than that. Ravens Cloud9. That's very interesting. Can Ravens close out a still undefeated start? And also, if Cloud9 beat them, or this is more competitive, or whatever, then what does that say about FaZe on some level anyway? But I do think Ravens are the favourites here, to be honest. Like, Cloud9 won their previous series against Minnesota Rocker, impressively so, and maybe they've solved the server difficulties, but I just think I prefer Ravens' team right now in the majority of most than I do Cloud9's. Thieves Rocker to close out the day. Rocker looked pretty bad the other day against Cloud9. I don't expect Thieves to have an issue with them. But, of course, we've got to talk about the FaZe series, because they play play, it should be a guaranteed win on paper versus the Falcons. On paper, going into the season, you might have said number 1 CDL team in the standings versus number 12. That's not so clear right now. Falcons have been competitive, but not competitive enough. How are they going to fare against FaZe? I mean, as we saw, FaZe were less competitive against Ravens than Falcons were. So, look, FaZe, I'm still obviously not going to say they're going to lose the series. They should be winning the series. But if Falcons... I mean, what if Falcons come out on a 100-point club and map 1 hard point, right? Like, then what's going to happen, right, over this winter break? And even if FaZe come out and they 3-0 them, no problem at all, they're not going to be able to comfortably go into Christmas, New Year period and say, oh, we're back, right? Like, that's not going to be clear. So very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.